Okay, so I want you to imagine something. It's your 62nd birthday, and you're looking at the clock and you're fantasizing about no more meetings and no more Sunday night dread. And then you look at your bills, all the subscriptions and the car payments and the insurance premiums. And that's when you get that yucky, sinking feeling that 62, well, that's just a dream. Because here's the reality. Gen X is the highest spending generation in history. And it's not because we're all out buying luxury items. A lot of our spending is life fixers, therapeutic life fixers, just to sometimes get through the week. So today, let's look at the real reason why Gen X is the highest spending generation and how we can plug some of those leaks. And stick around also, because later in the video, I'm going to compare the bills we had in the 90s versus the bills we have today, and how maybe we can get some of that back. So just maybe we can retire sometime in the near future. Okay, point number one is the Gen X debt reality. Now, when I started researching this topic, some of the numbers, they really surprised me. Gen X currently carries more debt than any other generation. The average total debt load for Gen X currently is somewhere around $156,000. Now, that could be mortgage debt, credit card debt, medical debt, student loan debt even. But you take that credit card debt that's included in there, and it is also the highest of any other generation currently. The average Gen Xer now carries a credit card balance of $10,000. And what really caught my attention is that Gen X debt has jumped dramatically in the last few years. Life has gotten much more expensive and harder to operate. And a lot of Gen Xers are now paying for 3 generations simultaneously. Ourselves, our kids, and helping our aging parents. That sandwich generation label starts making a lot more sense when it becomes your reality. You reach this point in life where you feel like everyone around you needs something financial from you. Your adult kids can't afford rent. Your parents, they need help navigating health care, maybe help with prescriptions, home repairs. And meanwhile, your retirement accounts, they're sitting over there, undernourished. And then there's the student loan debt. A surprising number of Gen Xers are still carrying student loan debt. Some are their own loans, some are Parent Plus loans, some are a combination of both. And realistically, I think this is where a lot of Gen X stress stems from. Because most of us, we grew up thinking that by this stage of life, financially, things should be calmer. But instead, it just feels like the bills are multiplying and coming from every direction. And what's strange is that from the outside, Gen X looks financially stable. We have houses, jobs, cars, streaming subscriptions, Amazon boxes showing up at the front door every few days. But I'm beginning to think that a lot of that stability is just being held together by debt, stress, and constant financial maintenance. Like one unexpected big expense could knock everything sideways. And I don't even think that a lot of us fully realize how much modern life depends on convenience spending. Okay, point number 2, let's talk some more about why Gen X is the highest spending generation. Researchers project that Gen X alone will drive $15 trillion in global spending just this year alone. One report even said that if Gen X was its own country, we would be the second largest consumer economy in the world. Just our generation. I mean, that's incredible when you think about it, especially considering that we only make up 19% of the total population. Yet we account for nearly a third of all retail spending. And a lot of that, I think, is that because Gen X, we've become responsible for almost everything. We're running households, and sometimes multiple households. We're trying to keep life operational. Another study stated that the average Gen X household makes over 800 shopping trips per year. Now, at first I didn't believe that because, there are only 365 days in the year. But of course, it's representing a Gen X household, which is more than one person. But just think about it, because modern life today, it constantly feels like we're running out of something. We're constantly replacing and updating and repairing things. It's an endless cycle, and we're paying for all of it. And the bummer is that a lot of this spending, it's not even optional anymore. Okay, point number 3 is the convenience tax. Now, you can't help but notice how many parts of life now come with a monthly fee attached to it, which means that it's just endless. You never seem to pay anything off anymore. Life has quickly become subscription-based. And I think Gen X gets hit particularly hard in this department because we're in our peak earning years. And not only peak earning, but peak responsibility years as well. We're paying for a lot of convenience in our lives because we just simply don't have the energy to do everything manually anymore. And if someone's offering to go shop for you or to deliver your groceries to the front door, well, that's hard to resist sometimes. And that's why I think a lot of convenience spending today is really just, I'm too busy spending. We work all day, we commute, we deal with our aging parents, we worry about the kids, we get in 10, 15-minute unplanned texting conversations where, it's hard to multitask because you get sucked into that. And we're having to clean the house again. We're trying to stay healthy. We're trying to fit things in for that. And we're attempting to keep up with technology that changes every 6 months as well. It's a lot. And by the end of the day, that buy now button feels less like luxury and more like survival or a coping mechanism. And I think that this is the deeper story that a lot of financial channels miss these days. Because this debt, it's not just financial debt anymore. It's operational debt and mental debt, decision debt, caregiving debt. We are mentally overloaded. And overloaded people, they usually spend differently and spend more. Okay, point number 4 is the retire at 62 audit. So I started thinking recently, if retiring at 62 is the goal or the dream of many Gen Xers, what would actually have to change? Not in a fantasy way, but realistically. And I think that starts with just doing a very honest audit of what you're spending on. Some of us, we've optimized our lives so much that we've priced ourselves out of our own future. And to fix it, we might have to look at how our lives operated before that, subscribe button was out there. And first step is weeding out those subscriptions. One rule that I have always gone by is if I haven't used something in 30 days, why am I still paying for it? It has to go. And you do have to get ruthless about this. And it's almost like you have to train that muscle, because every forgotten subscription, every unused app, every convenience fee, they're quietly asking you to work a little longer, an extra month, an extra year, maybe an extra 5 years. And that's the part that really can change your perspective on it. Another option is to reframe things as buying back your freedom. I think a lot of us Gen Xers, we were taught to think of spending as asking yourself, can I afford this? But in the last few years, I've started changing that question. Now I ask myself, how much of my future freedom am I willing to give up for this thing, this service, this item? How much of my future freedom does this cost me? Because there's a difference between buying something and financing a lifestyle that you have to stay trapped in. I think the real luxury isn't stuff, it's flexibility. It's lower overhead. It's needing less. And another option is the out-of-the-box option, the 1990s lifestyle experiment. Let's tap into our unique Gen X expertise, because some of the answers may exist back in the way that Gen X used to live, before life became so optimized and subscriptionized. Okay, let me give you a picture of my past life. We'll go back to 1994. I was living on my own, had a one-bedroom apartment, so my monthly bills all consisted of rent, my electric bill. I didn't have a water bill because that was included in the rent. If I was feeling really, spendy, I would get the basic cable, which was $15 a month back then. I had a phone bill, which usually consisted of some long distance because I was living away from my family at the time. I did not have a car payment, but the car I did have constantly needed repairs. I had liability insurance on that, and a credit card that I was trying to pay off, probably with the minimum payment only. But those were the bills. Those were the monthly bills, and you can almost count them on one hand. Now, of course, there was additional spending on groceries and gas and stuff like that, but the monthly bills were so tightly contained at that time. My main TV was a 19-inch TV, no passwords, no updating my phone or my TV. Upgrading came much later. No notifications except that blinking light on my answer machine, maybe a few things in the mailbox. I remember on Saturdays, I would deep clean my apartment every week, every Saturday, because I had the time to do it. We don't realize how much extra time we have when we have it. We take that for granted, because I never have that kind of time anymore. Deep cleaning time? Maybe that's not really a bad thing. And I'm not saying that we all need to live like it's 1994 again. That would be an impossibility to completely do that anyway. Although a lot of 1994 sounds peaceful to me compared to the hectic pace we're living today. Life before the iPhone, even before Starbucks, when storage, it consisted of a cassette rack that you hung on your wall proudly instead of storage on the cloud. that comes attached with a bill every month. We, Gen X, we remember a version of life that was much slower and simpler and much less financially demanding. And maybe some of those old habits could help us financially fund our futures now. It's almost kind of like Back to the Future. I don't think Gen X expected life to become this operationally expensive, financially, emotionally, mentally. I know I didn't. Everything now seems to require a payment that never ends. And honestly, some of this isn't even lifestyle inflation anymore. Some of it is simply the modern cost of just functioning. And I think a lot of us are realizing that retiring at 62 may have less to do with being rich and more to do with simplifying our lives so that we need less. Because freedom isn't having everything that's being offered to us today. Freedom is needing less to be okay. And I'd really love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Do you feel your past or possibly even current spending is preventing you from retiring at 62? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. And as Casey Kasem used to always say, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. I'll see you in the next one.